Give me a break, give me a break. How you gonna store all your knick-knack toys? Welcome to Pegwarmers, I'm Kevin, and I'm here to talk about toys. Today's episode I'm calling Memorabilia and Collectibles. This is a setting up the toy room episode. I have been living in my house for well over a year now, and I've been slowly working on setting up the toy room in the basement here. I think I did one episode covering it. I've alluded to some stuff. I really haven't put as much of the room on video as I would like to, mostly because it's not done. And I really feel like I need all of it complete to really be able to show it off. Some sections it's hard to film the wall because in the middle there are a mountain of bins. Or there's like one little thing that needs to be tweaked or something. Or the displays are roughed in and I want to like do some more tweaking before I kind of show it off. It's kind of a pain, to be honest. But I do want to share it with you guys. I want to share the progress. And so one little small section I'm really happy with. So that's what I'm showing off. In the basement when I bought it, there was a dartboard on the center of a bulletin board. And cut out into the bulletin board is a thermostat. So originally I was going to keep the dartboard. And the more I think about it, the less I really want darts being thrown down here around my collectibles. And it eats up a pretty large section of wall space because it's got this big bulletin board to help basically protect the wall from the darts. And then the whole wall below that, you can't really put anything on unless you're willing to sacrifice it to the darts. I'm not really interested in that. The dartboard might get put on the garage door coming into the house. That might be kind of fun down the road when my stepsons get older and I trust them with actual metal darts. But for now, dartboard's leaving the basement. So that section of wall, I couldn't remove the bulletin board from it because it's kind of integrated into that thermostat. So I decided to keep it. It's a great way to be able to display a lot of paperwork and ephemera related to collecting, which if you collect a lot, there is a lot of that stuff. Card backs, file cards, blueprints, any of those things. But also, I save con badges and just things. The creative process that I'm involved with, the hobby of toy collecting on top of actually collecting the toys, my internet persona, if you will, has evolved over the years. I have worked on several different websites, vlogs, stop-motion animation series. This YouTube channel's had 2 different names. So I have things like business cards and postcard flyers and stuff like that I just kind of want to keep one copy of as sort of a historical marker of the journey I've been on. Almost like a scrapbook. And so I decided to keep the bulletin board. But I also had these 2 California job cases. And if you don't know what a California job case is, it's one of these. This is actually a really tiny one. And this is a tray that comes out that would keep metal type in for doing newspapers or other printing processes. You may see these at antique stores. One of my best friends growing up, Derek, had one of these when we were kids. He got it probably in late elementary school. And his mom hung it on the wall, and it was called the knick-knack shelf. And I fell in love with it. We had so much fun finding little guys and little gremlins and things that could fit in all the compartments. It's hard to use one of these for like a large collection of any specific things because you'll run out of compartments that are the right size. But it is fun to just display a bunch of random stuff, and it's fun to just look at them, especially if you come to somebody's house who does one of these kind of displays, just to see the variety of things in it. So I have 2 large ones of these, and I also have this small one. I don't think I ever hung this small one up at my old house, but I had the 2 large ones at my old house, and I really kind of wanted to get them out of storage. I wanted to get them off the floor and get the things out of the bins and hung back up. The California job boxes having all the little letters for page layout, I believe is where the upper and lowercase terminology came from for writing, because the uppercase letters were in a different slot, a different tray. That's the story I've always been told. I'm not an expert on typography. The top part of the bulletin board starts with a lot of the ephemera from my personal life in toy collecting internet space. I've got things from Action Figure Adventures, which was a animated show I did in college, as well as a blog title I had for a long time as an adult. There's SEO toy review things. There's Pegwarmers things. As you move across, you may notice some con badges as well as stickers from the Muppet Stuff blog, who's been on the show. Lots of passes, media credentials from Toy Fair and BronyCon, Paul Pass from 2017, MagFest, and all kinds of other events. There's actually a media credentials to be a photographer for a minor league hockey game from the Philadelphia Phantoms, which they're not even in Philadelphia anymore. There's a few carded figures up there. I have the Body Massage Roadblock from Super 7 that a friend gave me. I also have the Pixel Dan, Spencer Powers, Major Bendy's figure up there. I don't really know where else I would put them. I relate Dan to some of the media personality stuff because I met him through going to conventions and doing YouTube stuff, and the Body Massage was a gift from one of the people that I'm friends with, of one of the other volunteers from Too Many Games. So that just kind of all fit in my brain for that part of my collection. There is still some open space, and I intentionally left some space so I can continue to grow and build that scrapbook. I could have just completely filled it with stuff, probably, but I don't feel like everything that I had in that bin still was important, necessarily. I did also not put every single figure back in the job cases that I had in there at my old house. One of the collections that I really like displaying on the job cases, and I actually display it on the top ledge because you don't have to worry about compartment space, is the G.I. Joe Creo figures. This was a Lego-like figure line and brick line that Hasbro had done, and they made a lot of characters from the G.I. Joe line. I don't think I have anywhere near all of them, but I did buy a lot of them. My Footloose is actually missing a hand. It's kind of hard to replace. You don't find a lot of Creo guys laying around like you can Lego guys to steal a part off of. But there's quite a variety of characters. I've got Beachhead and Version 2 Storm Shadow and Scarlet and Flash, and I know I'm not saying them in order of the video, but some of the Dreadnoks are there, some Cobra Troopers. I have Jinx and Quick Kick and Nunchuck and, not Nunchuck, Slice, and I forget who all else, but they're pretty fun, cutesy little figures. I also have a bunch of the pack-in minifigures that came packaged as a bonus on some of the carded G.I. Joes in the late 80s. There's two Flints for some reason. I bought a second one not realizing I already had him. The Gung-Ho, the Beachhead, and the Buzzer and Quick Kick in my collection of those micro figures actually came on figures I had as a kid. I also have two Sergeant Slaughters, as well as some other kind of interesting things. I have these bootleg ornaments of Countdown and DJ. That's not a complete set. There's also a Scoop and maybe somebody else. I would love to get the Scoop one. I also have a Muscle Man-esque WWF Sergeant Slaughter figure there next to Alpha, the figure that came with the Power Dome playset for Power Rangers. And the shelf is just full of so many fun things when you really start looking around. I have a Megazord that came in Loot Crate. There are lots of little Mario characters and figurines from different series. There's an Imaginext Vampire and Boo from Mario Brothers, who came in like a Connect set, I believe. It's just a really fun way to display a huge array of little characters. You can see I have one down below there. I tried to make it low enough that I could still stand taller figures up above it, just like I did on the first one. The only problem is the ledge of the bulletin board kind of impacted it a little bit, so if things were kind of just the right height, they didn't want to stay up there where the two overlap, and there was no way of putting them next to each other or anything. I did play around trying to find the best arrangement for them, and I felt like staggered kind of was maybe the most interesting. I do still have that other one that isn't hanging up yet. I don't think I want to put it on the end. There is a little bit of open space, but because of the bookcase, I want to be able to access stuff, and I don't want to bang books into the little figures and knock them down. So I'll probably keep that space open, or maybe put something very flat there. The other case has more unusual and wacky stuff. There's a Captain Hook and TikTok from Jake and the Neverland Pirates, I think. More of the Nintendo characters. There's a Green Ranger from the Loyal Subjects. I was really into their minifigures for a long time. I really don't have a great way to display a lot of those guys. They're pretty wide and pretty short, so they get lost on a big shelf very easily. So the stealth or knight version of Green Ranger there, who has some black details on his gloves and stuff, is the only one of those guys currently on display. But I have several G.I. Joe, He-Man, and Power Ranger figures, and I might actually have a couple Thundercats on display somewhere. Lots of little superhero chibi guys. Oh, and I also have game pieces from Monopoly. I'm not totally sure why. They just fit in the little tiny cubbies, and I came across like a baggie of them at a thrift store one time, just game parts, and I bought them actually for something I do at my job, and but I saved a set of the little guys from Monopoly just for fun. I think I probably have all the sort of traditional ones, like the iron and the shoe and the wheelbarrow, but I also have like a little money bag one, the Scotty. I don't know. I just think those are kind of funny little knickknacks. There's some ETs, a whole bunch of strange little guys. It's a small collection of weirdos, but I do think that kind of stuff is fun. Little knick-knacky guys. So that whole area shows off a lot of fun stuff. I've been enjoying looking at that. There's a nice light over top of it from the for where the dartboard used to be. So that corner isn't super dark down here, which is great, because the lighting down here is not fantastic. There are definitely areas that are well lit and areas that are pretty dimly lit. I might try and run some LEDs on some of the longer beam sections down here at some point. It's something that I'm thinking about. There's a lot of things I'm trying to decide. There's actually like a whole section over here that I might kind of redo completely, and I'm trying to make some decisions about that. So yeah, lots of stuff going on with trying to set up the basement. I went to ZoloCon a couple weeks ago. I did an episode all about what makes a con great. That episode really didn't do well. I assume that's probably because of the title and the thumbnail. It doesn't really have toys in it. And then I'm kind of committing channel suicide here and doing a second episode in a row that doesn't have really toys in the title. I'll probably try and put some toys in the thumbnail at least. I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing some of the times. I make content that I like, but some of it just doesn't get a lot of views. So we do have some episodes coming up here in March that I should be doing with Tony from Hack the Movies. So hopefully those episodes will perform a little stronger because they have a more traditional, we're going to talk about this toy line kind of a vibe to them. Also, the push from the Hack the Movies fans is always super beneficial. This weekend I went to New Jersey Collectors Convention. I kind of want to do an episode that talks about those shows, but I didn't film that much. So a show that's like one ballroom in size, I just don't find that much content there. Just unless there's some really interesting stuff to shoot B-roll of to talk about, I just sort of get a little footage of stuff that's there, and then I have my small haul, and unless I find a ton of stuff I'm looking for, and I'm in sort of a don't buy a ton of stuff mode as I try and get this basement up and running better, I just have been refraining from buying outrageous amounts of stuff because I don't know what fits on display. Speaking of fitting stuff on display, I just picked up a new bookcase. This goes kind of in the same area as the knick-knack shelves, and it's going to help me get a bunch of like trade paperback comic books out of boxes. I have them in short boxes in storage here. Gets them out where I can see what I have and reduces the mountain of short boxes. So the short boxes are really just single issues, in their little sleeves, bagged and boarded. It's also going to help me kind of organize my reference material a little bit. And also, I have some IKEA cubes over on the far side here, and it lets me empty them out because there were some comics just shoved in there, like trade paperbacks and toy collecting manuals and things like that. So all that stuff is now on the bookshelf, freeing up some space. I have some original G.I. Joe artwork hanging up here. There's a drawing of Beachhead done by Paul Glacy. I actually have a pretty big collection of Beachhead stuff. He's my favorite G.I. Joe, especially artwork. He was doing the artwork for Special Missions, G.I. Joe Special Missions, which was an IDW book for a little while, and I commissioned him to draw Beachhead for me, and I also bought a page from that book, from the first issue of it, where Beachhead is seen in it on a mission, And I have both of those framed there. And I also bought several other pages from the main storyline that Larry Hama was writing for IDW when S.L. Gallant was working on it. I think the inker, I guess, for the books was selling his portion of the pages on eBay, and I would occasionally pick up pages that I liked. There are some pages that featured the Dreadnoks. There were some pages that featured Cutter and Deep Six in, like, scuba equipment, and then taking that off to, like, Raid a Cobra Base, which kind of reminded me of an episode of the cartoon where Deep Six is running around a Cobra Base. And there's also some pages that featured the Tomahawk, my favorite G.I. Joe aircraft, and possibly first or second favorite G.I. Joe vehicle. The Ram is my other favorite one, if you don't know that about me. So these pages are hanging there, and then on top of those two bookcases, I have a bunch of random stuff displayed just for fun. I have the Talon Fighter from Mo2 Classics. It's not really a great place for it. It covers up the artwork somewhat and takes up a ton of space, but I don't really have a great spot for it yet, so that's where it lives. There's also a Jumbo Mikey there, and an array of figures. I've got some Disney Afternoon guys there. I can't remember if those were made by Funko or somebody in the early 2000s. There's some adventure people from Fisher-Price, including their little spaceship, which are super fun. Figures I pick up at yard sales and things like that. Toy shows, super cheap. A lot of them aren't in great shape. And then I also have some Jabba the Hutts there, the Lego Jabba the Hutt, and a little kid Galactic Heroes, perhaps Jabba the Hutt. Jabba's one of my favorite aliens from Star Wars. I collect him in a lot of different scales and styles. I also have a Toxic Crusader bad guy there, Dr. Killimov, and Luigi from the Mario Brothers movie. The other bookcase has a collection of some Godzilla and King Kong figures. That Godzilla and King Kong are sort of my intro to kaiju. My best buddy Derek gave me those for my birthday in first grade. And then I have the miniaturized, Ultimates Godzilla, Shogun Warriors Godzilla that Super 7 put out recently. I think he's super cool. Some of my figures from the Land of the Lost are there. I did a whole episode on Land of the Lost, if you're into that show from the 90s, the remake of Land of the Lost. I had a huge collection of them, carded and boxed vehicles and playsets and stuff like that. I still have a lot of the playsets boxed. I kind of want to open them just because it's silly to keep them boxed. They're not really that valuable, and I think I would enjoy fooling around with them for a little bit. The problem is then figuring out how to display them, not lose the parts and stuff like that once I do that. But I downsized the carded figure collection, and I kept some loose figures. I have a majority of the characters loose because I had a lot of doubles, or I had the non-talking version and the talking version, so I kept the non-talking version, the basic figure, for some of the characters. And so I opened a lot of these up in an old Pegwarmers episode, but now they're on display here. There's some Funko Power Rangers, really stylized looking Power Ranger figures there, and a handful of other oddball toys. So basically, I'm kind of wondering, how many of you guys have an oddball shelf of things that really don't go together, or do something like the knick-knack shelf where you have a lot of little curiosities all on display together? I would love to hear about that. How do you do it? You can even send them to me over social media. You can, tweet me or Instagram photos directed at Pegwarmers Pod, and I'll get to see some parts of your collection. I know this episode's a little bit on the short side. This has been a really busy weekend, so I didn't get a chance to shoot kind of an extended video here. I did take a lot of pictures and some B-roll of this whole process of setting this up, so I hope you get to kind of get a feel for the journey I went on setting up this stuff, and I hope that you enjoy it. If you want to support this channel, hit the like button, leave a comment down below. If you want to support us further, you can join us on Patreon. But really, thanks for hanging on the peg with me.